Скажи что-нибудь.
А можно я буду просто красиво улыбаться? I don't understand English.
Отлично.
SAR Experience.
Сейчас мы разбираем разгон. И я надеюсь, что тут можно кататься.
So one of the highlights of Bucak is Ackerman Fortress, which is located in Belgorod-Dnitrovsky, or the White Town on the Dniester River. Previously, the castle was known as the White Castle or Cetate Alba in Romanian. Before the region's integration into the Ukrainian part of the Soviet Union, the city was predominantly a mix of Romanians, Jews, and Germans. The town, in fact, has been ruled by many people since its foundation by the Genoese. Lithuanians, Moldovans, Ottomans, Russians, Romanians, Soviets, and finally today, Ukrainians. The fortress historically protected vital port access to the Black Sea along the Dniester estuary. As you can see, the view over the castle's crenellated parapets is spectacular at sunset.
Это замечательно. Смотрите, сколько птиц.
Оставляется на ваш суд. Кому налили, берите, пробуйте, надеюсь, наслаждайтесь. Это шардоне. У каждого вина есть свои индивидуальные характеристики. Как у человека. У вина это аромат и вкус. Какие ароматы характерны для шардоне? Этот забыл крушение сок дикого винограда. Сок загородил, человек попробовал. Вот, Антон покинул, но я постараюсь для параллельной группы присоединиться. Его заменить. Это 10,5.
So I just went through the tour at Szabo, and basically this region was in the Ottoman Empire originally, and there were people making wine here. In fact, but when the Russians conquered the region, the people left, called it ethnic cleansing to a certain extent. So the Turks and Tatars, who predominantly had settled here, they left, and they left their vineyards, and the Russians actually didn't know how to make wine. So what they did is they invited in some Swiss winemakers, and basically they lived here and they produced the wine, and they lived here up until the 1940s, when they basically had to leave, became the Soviet Union, had been under Romanian control for a certain period as well. I'm used to these kind of places in general being reminiscent of the Soviet Union, and now you see the new generation of Ukrainian entrepreneurs who've traveled a lot more and probably lived in Western Europe, and how they're producing new experiences here close to Odessa. It's very impressive, very modern looking, very extensive, an interesting museum tour, I have to say. And now I'm just in the restaurant across the street. So very cool. They also have a cheese place next door. There's some cheesemakers that modeled what they're doing on the Netherlands. So there you see, there's the opportunities here. So pretty cool to see, and definitely a good experience to come and enjoy. Very close to Odessa. It's like about 90 minutes drive away from Odessa, and it's pretty cool, the whole thing. So very impressed. Big thumbs up for my trip to Szabo.
Нет? Ой. Автобуса нету, да?
Автобус едет.
Окей,
Куда?
идем.
Вон туда.
Всем привет из Измаила. So you're probably wondering, where exactly am I, especially looking at this church right behind me here. I am in Izmail, which is in the Danube Delta. The river Danube, of course, flows all the way across Europe and comes into the sea, in the Black Sea, which is very close to where I am right now. I'm actually in the delta of the river as it flows in, and this is the Ukrainian side. In general, most of the Danube Delta actually lies across the border in Romania. I'm right on that border exactly right now as we speak. And you might wonder, why did I come here? Well, I came here because it's very close to Odessa. It's only about a 5-hour trip away, and it's a region that's very rich in biodiversity and it's quite famous. And this is a town of about 75,000 people. It's the gateway to the Ukrainian side of the Danube Delta. But you might be wondering, why is it called Izmail? That is not a Ukrainian sounding name, and you'd be right there. It's actually derived from an Ottoman Sultan, Ismail, and that's kind of gives you an indication as to the history of this region right here. It has a lot of historical ties with Romania, the Ottoman Empire, Turkey, which is of course the state that followed the fall of the Ottoman Empire. The Russian Empire has a lot of its history based here, and you're going to find this region, a lot of different ethnicities have lived and actually been the majority in the city, depending who was in charge and the era. For example, between the interbellum period between World War I and World War II, it was actually a majority, well, the biggest ethnic group were Jews, followed by Romanians and then Germans. But today, following World War II, the ethnic mix has changed quite a bit, and a lot of Ukrainians and Russians moved here. So come with me, I'm going to take you a little bit around Izmail and show you what you can see here. Especially,
Ну-ка, герой Измаила приветствует вас просто в этом иностранном блоге, который соберет 1 000 000 просмотров, будем надеяться, принесет много денег этому иностранцу, у которого будет куча кэша, и он в чемодан будет выходить с деньгами. И не удивляться, потому что нет терминала вот это вот в допотопном городе.
So can you believe it? There is something in English written in the middle of nowhere.
Connor Klein, yeah?
Yeah, that's me.
My name is Michael Efremov, Misha. Yeah. Fuck them all. Do you know this song? Yeah? Million for me?
No, I don't know it.
Fuck them all.
You know it pretty well though.
It's good song. It's my lovely song.
as I said, we're in the Danube Delta, which is the main gateway city here. So there's a port, there's the river Danube. You can travel down that to Vilkova, which is known as Ukraine's Venice. So I'm planning to go there tomorrow and check that out.
Пацаны не парятся, они прыгают просто.
Vilkova is a town in the Danube Delta, which is also known as the Ukrainian Venice. So as you can see, traditionally locals have mainly used boats to commute along the small town's waterways instead of cars. Taking a boat trip out onto the Danube, down the Kilia distributary to where it enters the sea at 0 kilometer is a must-do excursion. There's stunning flora and wildlife here to view, especially during the summer.
Она сейчас прыгнет в воду, доплывет до вас и укусит вас. То вы будете плакать.
Почему ты против меня и за собаку?
Я за собаку. Пока.
Привет, Надечка.
Ой, это телевидение, наверное.
Да, вас снимают, улыбнитесь, пожалуйста, какая вы
А
красивая.
какой это канал?
Это канал на YouTube.
Это
Подключаться.
YouTube.
А, понятно. Привет, YouTube.
Спасибо. Сюда, иди сюда. Вот там грязь. Вот. По тропиночке.
Okay. Super. So I've made it to kilometer zero. So this is actually the source of the river Danube, but of course goes through a lot of European countries. I think this is like 9 and it's like 2,000, maybe 800 kilometers from its source in the Black Forest in Germany. And right here is where it flows into the Black Sea, the end of the journey if you go down the river Danube. And yeah, this is actually also interesting because here this Kilia branch of the Danube Delta is actually constantly growing, and then this actual sign has to be moved out a little bit all the time because it's actually moving along as it grows out into the Black Sea ever so slightly. So this is where it all ends. It is normally there actually aren't so many tourists here, but I think we just got a little bit unlucky that there was a boat that came right at the same time with tourists, with about 25 of them at the exact same moment when we got here. So I think we're a bit unlucky, but there aren't very many tourists in Pulkovo at all. So still a pretty unspoiled place. Nature is beautiful, way better than when we came here in March. March, it basically sucked. It was cold and it wasn't as green or as lush, but now the nature is beautiful here. So very cool spot to come to for the day. Super happy that we came back.
Анжела, где мы?
Ми у Вілково.
І що ми будемо робити?
Ми зараз будемо їсти, тому що ми дуже голодні. Дуже сильно голодні.
Это селца, что это?
Ця рибка живе у Вілково.
Ага.
Її тут ловлять і подають нам на тарілочці, щоб ми її з'їли. Вона
О.
дуже смачна.
Да, смачного.
Так, дякую. Какая красота просто. Все, пошлите.
Yeah, we're about to make off with the bounty. People are friendly as here because, yeah, they basically let us come in and devour some of their fruit. Вкусно. Идем.
Мы в Затоке. Я
Эти
первый раз.
затоки, да. Это где?
С той стороны Румыния, там Турция, а там Одесса.
Молодец, изучила. Где сел? Как себя чувствуешь?
Очень хорошо. Только
Почему?
мы не пойдем в ту сторону утром, завтра пойдем в ту сторону загорать, потому что там более чистый песок.
Окей, супер, окей. Идем кушать.
Да. Let's go.
Privit is Satoki. It's quite different to the rest of the region because it's actually a small seaside resort that's becoming more and more popular in the region. It's kind of basically a little bit more basic, I would say, than probably you're used to if you've ever been to Western Europe or to US resorts. And definitely compared to Odessa, it's more for Ukrainian tourism than international tourism. I'm just thinking that I don't think I saw an English menu. Maybe they had them, but I didn't see them anywhere. And actually, you couldn't pay by the credit card in the machine. You had to either pay in cash or by Ukrainian system to actually send the money to a card because, well, I guess they just don't have enough international tourists to bother with getting the terminal, or terminal as it's known in Russian. So that was a little bit inconvenient, I have to say, because you need to be walking around with more cash than if you're a foreigner than normally you would when paying for things. So definitely seaside vibe. I was actually here maybe about 6 years ago, I think, and it was more basic. Now it actually has some nice restaurants lining the beach, and you can get your shisha. People are hanging out. The vibe was actually pretty relaxed and cool here last night, I have to say. So I thought it was a cool place to come with a girl for 2 days. Was here with Angela, and we had a pretty nice time. Enjoy a bit of a vibe by the sea. I'm not a huge beach guy myself, so it's not for me to really lie on the beach for 8 hours a day getting red with his Irish Celtic skin. It's really not my idea of a good time, but definitely worth just taking a day or two, to come and relax. The food was pretty good, and actually it's as you'd expect, a little bit cheaper than being up in Odessa. Not a huge difference. Woo! Привет! So, friendly locals.
Здравствуйте.
А кому-то аппетит нагоняет.
Могу поставить вот здесь куриный, да?
Да.
Или будет неудобно?
Я думаю,
Давайте на ту сторону овощи, да?
So now we have also what's traditional everywhere in this region, of course, shashlik, so off the grill. We have this is pork, and on the other side we have here some chicken, and we also have the vegetables. I'm a big fan of having the vegetables with it personally. So we got my favorite aubergine, baklujan, and a nice salad. So the traditional cheese in Bessarabia, because we are in Bucak, is this white cheese that you see there, called brinza. Brinza or brinza?
бринза.
Smechnoho
Смачного.
and budma. So now I'm back in Odessa, Mama, the principal city in this region, and that was a really fun vlog for me to make over several trips to Bucak. But you're probably still asking yourself at the end of this video, Connor, is a trip to Bucak for me personally? Now, I think it makes a lot of sense if, first of all, it's summertime. Now it's probably almost too hot to go back to Bucak. It is over 30 degrees Celsius in Odessa. Most of the time that I was there was like, in summer it was like maybe low 20s, which was really ideal. But when it gets this hot, it is pretty rough traveling there. It's just super, super scorching. But definitely summertime for the atmosphere and obviously the scenery. I have been there in winter. It was not the same experience. It was actually a little bit dull. The vegetation and the colors compared to the summertime, and also it was pretty cold. It was not the same experience at all. And I think it makes sense if it's in the summer, you have a good bit of time in the region, you're not here on a weekend trip to Odessa, then I think no, it doesn't make sense to go out to Bucak. But say you have a couple of weeks, and in particular, if you have met a special lady, for example, and you want to do something a little more interesting and travel together, get to know each other better and do something cool, then definitely Bucak is a good option. Also, if you just want to mix things up and be more creative on dates, then also pretty interesting alternative, I think, to just doing the normal rigmarole like 97% of guys do. They're so predictable. Now, you have basically two alternatives. One is to go out to Vilkova, amazing, obviously, spot, really unique in Europe with the Danube Delta there, and all those, the birds, the wildlife, going around on the boat, really, really cool experience. The alternative to that is to go out to a vineyard. Now, in today's video, I went, of course, to Szabo. There are other vineyards in the region as well. It was a really cool tour there, by the way, as you saw, and sunset at that castle at Belgorod-Dnitrovsk. Amazing, definitely really romantic trip to take. So I think if you have that combination of time, interest, and someone to go there with, can be a really cool experience. And this is actually what I've been talking about a lot on my current online bootcamp, which is called Slavic Seduction Secrets. And this is actually one of the things that came up in it, is exactly what to do to be more creative on dates. Now, that's obviously closed from Roman because I'm actually getting to the end of the online bootcamp. But I will open up in the future from Roman again. And in order to be notified of that and get in on it, to have any chance of partaking in it, you need to be on my mailing list. I only opened up to my most loyal fans who are on this mailing list. And there is a link below. And in return, I'm actually going to give you my free checklist, 5 business mistakes made by foreign guys when they come here to Eastern Europe to date beautiful women. So you don't want to be making those 5 biggest mistakes. It's completely free if you don't already have it. Get on the mailing list, and then in due course I will notify you as to your opportunity to join the next iteration of the bootcamp.
or the next opportunity to view it. And that's actually been really rewarding for me. I actually had a call with one of the guys on it this morning, and it was really pretty rewarding just to get the feedback, how much he's enjoying. I could see that actually on the live streams, how much, because he's really, really engaged in the content. So, Bucak, probably a place you'd never actually heard of, right? Very few people had. Even when I talk about Bucak here, people are like, huh? And I start saying Zatoka, Belgorod, this historic region to the west of Odessa was what an amazing history, mixture of peoples, like you had the Russians, Ukrainians, Gagauz, Bulgarians, had all those different people, the Ottomans, Turks, now it's part of Ukraine, obviously, you had the Romanians in charge for a while, you had it, vestiges of all that in the cuisine, in the architecture, in the monuments of the region. For me, as a I'm also interested in the history of all the places I go to, so for me it was really, really cool and rewarding as well on a personal level to have gone there. See you very soon in the next video. It's going to be a vlog from here in Odessa Mama. Ciao, ciao, do побачення, до свидання, arrivederci.
Tsar Experience.
Подписывайтесь на канал, ставьте лайки и не забывайте нас смотреть.